To keep her college flame, Ryan Vance, secure in his position at the firm, my wife, Jessica Thompson, thought nothing of drugging me. I missed a crucial meeting with a major client, lost the account, and my professional reputation took a hit. And all my hard work, everything I had built, was handed right over to him. If you love helping this mooch steal what's mine so much, I told her, then I wish you two a lifetime of happiness. I walked into the office, submitted my resignation, and served her with divorce papers. Then I just left. Jessica always believed she was the brilliant one, that she could achieve greatness without me. But she seemed to forget that without me, she never would have even gotten a foot in the door at this company. Worse, the investment portfolio her old flame put together was a house of cards, riddled with flaws. With their combined half-baked incompetence, they were destined to lose everything. When I woke up in a fog, my head throbbing, "Jessica," I called out. Silence. It felt like I'd slept for an eternity. My head was heavy, aching. I grabbed my phone, and a jolt of cold panic shot through me. It was already 11:00 a.m. My meeting with Ken Wallace, our biggest client, was at 10:00. I threw myself through a frantic shower, dressed in seconds, and rushed to the meeting location, calling Jessica and Wallace over and over on the way. Neither of them picked up. When I burst into the restaurant, I found Jessica laughing and chatting with Wallace. She saw me and smiled, sharp, polished thing. "Mr. Wallace, please forgive him. My husband can't even remember a simple appointment. He's clearly not equipped to handle an account of your size." Wallace looked me up and down, grunted, and said nothing more. I started to explain, but Jessica grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the private dining room. She looked at me with cold indifference. "What are you doing here?" The question stunned me. It was so absurd, I almost laughed. "I'm here to close the deal." "How did you wake up so soon?" she asked, her voice dripping with acid. In a flash, I remembered the glass of milk she'd brought me last night. It had a strange aftertaste, but I was so touched by the rare gesture of affection that I drank it without a second thought. The taste was too strong, though, so I only managed half. Now I knew that weird taste was probably from sleeping pills. "You drugged me." Jessica scanned me with a look of pure disgust. "You're not as stupid as you look. Why would you do this? This deal is critical for the firm. How does this help the company, you, or me?" "Help." She tilted her head, a malicious grin spreading across her face. "Oh, it helps, believe me." Before I could press her further, Ryan Vance's voice cut in from behind me. "Jessica, I've got the contracts printed. Should I take them into Mr. Wallace now?" Ryan looked at Jessica with a soft, adoring gaze, then pretended to notice me for the first time, his feigned surprise painfully obvious. "Oh, Jake, you're here. I didn't think I'd see you today." He turned to Jessica with a pathetic, pleading look. "Jessica, now that Jake's here, are you just going to let him take this deal from me?" A surge of hot anger flooded my chest. Take it from him? I was the one who had been managing this account for years, nurturing the relationship. Now, because Jessica drugged me, it suddenly belonged to him? I opened my mouth to argue, but Jessica beat me to it. She reached out and soothingly stroked Ryan's hair, her eyes filled with a tenderness I hadn't seen directed at me in years. "Of course not, Ryan. What's yours will always be yours." She shot a dismissive glance at me. "Whoever signs this contract gets the director position. As of now, you'll be addressing him as Director Vance." "That's Mr. Vance to you, Associate Director Moore." "You're insane. This is your idea of help. Cementing Ryan's position at the firm? What else?" With a final look of contempt, Jessica turned, walked back into the room, and handed the contract to Wallace. "Mr. Wallace, let's get this signed. I'm confident that under Ryan's management, your assets will double." I stared in disbelief. "Jessica, have you lost your mind? It's impossible to double that kind of investment in 6 months." Ryan scoffed. "Just because you can't do it, Jake, doesn't mean others can't." I looked at Wallace, my voice earnest. "Ken, we've known each other a long time. You know what I'm capable of. I admit the market is hot right now, but doubling your assets in such a short time is a pipe dream." Seeing Wallace hesitate, Jessica shot me a venomous look before turning back to him. "Mr. Wallace, I can't stand by and watch you be deceived any longer. All the investment plans Jake has ever presented to you were stolen from Ryan. As his wife, I've tried to reason with him countless times, but he refuses to change. I couldn't bear it anymore, which is why I'm putting my own reputation on the line today to ensure you sign with Ryan. Jessica, do you have any idea what you're saying? Ryan stepped forward, clasping Jessica's hand tightly. Jessica, thank you. Without you, I don't know how much longer my work would have been plagiarized. Rage choked me, leaving me speechless. For Ryan, she was willing to destroy me with such a vicious lie. Didn't she realize this would ruin my career? Was he really that important to her? Wallace was still wavering, so Jessica played her trump card. We'll sweeten the deal. Sign today, and we'll reduce the management fee by 10%. That did it. Wallace didn't hesitate any longer and quickly signed the contract. He looked at me with a hint of apology. Jake, it's not that I don't trust you, but your own wife is saying this. As Wallace walked away, I turned and stared at Jessica. Why? She held Ryan's hand tighter. For Ryan, of course, and for the good of the company. You've been an associate director for years without a promotion. Doesn't that prove you're not cut out for the next level? She sneered. Now that there's an opportunity, you try to leverage your seniority to block the best person for the job. And that person is Ryan. If you were capable, you would have been promoted ages ago. I locked eyes with her. Do you understand what your words today will do to me? So, you won't be able to work in the industry anymore? It's not like you were setting the world on fire. What's wrong with paving the way for Ryan? She kept saying his name, her face full of adoration for him. She was a stranger to me. No, perhaps this was who she always was. I first met her in college. She was at a basketball game to give Ryan a bottle of water, but he mocked her because it was cheap, generic brand. I watched him take a Gatorade from a rich girl and walk off, leaving Jessica crying on the bleachers. I handed her a tissue. Her eyes were tear-filled but clear as glass. You could see right into her soul. Later, Ryan tried to convince her to take out a high-interest payday loan to buy him a new phone. I stepped in and broke down for her exactly how predatory it was, how it would ruin her credit. I believed she was a good, innocent person at her core, and I couldn't watch her future get thrown away. She understood and thanked me, shaken. We grew closer after that, right up until Ryan officially started dating the rich girl. The night he made it official, Jessica got blackout drunk and tried to slit her wrists. I found her, stopped her, and held her while she sobbed. She grabbed my hand and asked, Jake, is it true? Is nobody ever going to love me? She told me about her miserable childhood, an abusive father, a weak mother, a life of poverty. Seeing her so broken, so lost, my heart went out to her. To give her a reason to live, I took her hand and made a promise that would define my life. I'll love you. But looking at her now, I realized she only said yes to me because she couldn't have him. Now, after I had lifted her up and helped her build a career, Ryan was back in the picture, and suddenly all my sacrifices meant nothing. I should have seen it long ago. A sharp pain lanced through my chest. I looked at the way she clutched the signed contract, guarding it like a treasure. Don't worry, I said, my voice flat. I'm not going to fight you for it. Maybe it was the lingering effects of the sleeping pills, but an overwhelming exhaustion washed over me. I felt like I could lie down right there on the floor as a wave of despair threatened to pull me under. Back at the office, I sat down at my desk and methodically deleted every investment proposal, every strategy file. Then, I formatted the entire hard drive. The market is volatile. A recent surge driven by the Fed's expansionary fiscal policy had created a temporary bull run, but it wouldn't last. When the market corrected, the gains would stabilize, and aggressive investors who didn't get out in time would suffer catastrophic losses. Ryan, without a doubt, would be one of them. He barely scraped by to get his business degree and had spent 3 years at the firm fumbling every account he touched. If Jessica hadn't begged me to clean up his messes time and time again, he would have been fired long ago. But he was blissfully unaware, convinced he was a genius, and that I was the one sabotaging him. His investment strategy was reckless, no different from a gambler on a hot streak. The portfolio in that contract wasn't optimized for the market. It was just a blind collection of a few stocks that had been trending up. But anyone with real experience knew those stocks were on the verge of a nosedive. As soon as Jessica returned, she eagerly dragged Ryan to our boss's office to demand his promotion. Our boss looked at me, conflicted. But, Jake, you've always been the one handling this account, right? Before I could answer, Jessica jumped in. Sir, Positions like these should go to the most capable person, and Ryan is far more capable than Jake. Seeing our boss hesitate, Jessica used the same tactic again. Sir, for years, all the proposals Jake submitted for the Wallace account were plagiarized from Ryan's work. The boss stared at me, shocked. That can't be possible. I'm his wife, Jessica said, her voice full of false sincerity. Would I lie about something like this? I let out a cold, humorless laugh. I've been with this firm for 5 years, and I've been working with Ken Wallace for all 5. Ryan has only been here for 3. So how, exactly, was I plagiarizing his work for those first 2 years? Jessica was speechless, stammering, unable to form a coherent reply. As the boss's resolve began to waver, Ryan stepped forward. Sir, it's true. Jake stole my ideas. He's been suppressing my performance for years, blocking my advancement. But he always cleans up my mistakes because he's afraid the company will fire me and he'll have no one left to steal from. The boss looked at me with growing doubt. Ryan pressed his advantage. Sir, if you give me the director position, I'll waive my entire commission on the Wallace deal. It can all go to the firm. That sealed it. The boss's eyes lit up. Done. In that case, the director position is yours, Ryan. He glanced at me, a flicker of guilt on his face, and opened his mouth to offer some empty platitude. I cut him off by taking off my employee badge and placing it on his desk. Don't bother, I said calmly. I quit. Jessica's face contorted in fury. Quit? How can you quit? What are Ryan and I supposed to do if you quit? So, she didn't know he was incompetent. But in her mind, Ryan gets the money, Ryan gets the promotion. Where did I fit in? What was I? What did the last 7 years of our lives together mean? Was I just a fool? A bitter smile formed on my lips. Jessica, I'm done with you too. Let's get a divorce. I got into finance for Jessica. When we graduated from college, I had already been accepted into a prestigious Ph.D. program. I wanted to pursue a life in academia, not on Wall Street. But then Jessica's mother got sick. The cost of the surgery was astronomical, and Jessica was paralyzed with fear. Seeing her so helpless, I gritted my teeth, declined my grad school admission, and took a job with an investment firm that had been recruiting me. To raise the money for the surgery, I worked day and night, my eyes glued to market tickers and candlestick charts. I poured every ounce of my knowledge into the work, taking on the highest risk trades for the highest returns. One wrong move and my life would have been over. I'm a risk-averse person by nature. But for her, I became a gambler. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. Finally, on the eve of the surgery, I had the full amount. I brought the cash home and gave it to Jessica. She put it away and left to share the good news with her family. After a month of sleepless nights, I was utterly exhausted. I collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. Vaguely, I heard someone come in, but I was too tired to open my eyes. Assuming it was Jessica coming back for the money, I didn't move. That evening, I was woken by a stinging slap across my face. The money! Jessica screamed, tears streaming down her face. Where's the money, you bastard? I was completely disoriented. I scrambled into the living room, but the place where we'd stored the cash was empty. Not a single bill was left. Panic seized me. I immediately went to call the police, but Jessica stopped me. What are you doing? You're just trying to frame Ryan. Her words made no sense. Through her hysterical sobs, I pieced together that Ryan had stopped by the apartment that afternoon looking for her, but left when he found she was at the hospital. I was convinced Ryan had taken the money and insisted on calling the cops, but Jessica fought me, even threatening to kill herself if I did. In the middle of our struggle, the hospital called. Jessica's mother hadn't made it. She crumpled to the floor, pounding on my chest with her fists. You killed my mom. You monster. Now I'm all alone. She cried until she passed out. Our home was a wreck. Even though Ryan was the primary suspect, Jessica fiercely defended him and demanded the police drop the case. With no evidence found at our apartment, the investigation went cold. It became an open wound in my heart. I felt an immense guilt toward Jessica, and from that day forward, I tolerated everything. Her coldness, her constant fawning over Ryan. I told myself it was just her grief. But now I had to wonder, did she really not know who took the money? Or did she just refuse to admit it? When she heard the word divorce, Jessica froze. A moment later, she slapped me again. Jake Moore, who the hell do you think you are? You dare ask me for a divorce? You're nothing. I stared at her, my face numb. I've had enough. For years, I've watched you get closer and closer to Ryan while treating me like dirt. Now you're trying to destroy my career. You really expect me to just take it? My words only enraged her more. She lunged at me again, but Ryan, his eyes darting around, quickly grabbed her arm. Jessica, calm down. If he wants a divorce, let him. He turned to her with a look of feigned sincerity. Jessica, divorce him. Give me a chance to take care of you, openly and honestly. Jessica melted, tears of gratitude welling in her eyes. Oh, Ryan, you're the only one who's ever truly loved me, who's always been there for me. Ryan pulled her into an embrace, shooting a triumphant smirk at me over her shoulder. Well, since you're getting divorced, I suppose it's time to divide the assets, isn't it? I laughed coldly. Jessica's spending habits were reckless. To protect us from financial ruin, I had her sign a comprehensive prenuptial agreement years ago. My intention was to make sure I could always take care of her, even if she bankrupted herself. Now, it looked like I'd saved myself. 5 when I pulled the signed prenup from my office safe, the color drained from Ryan's face. He stared blankly at Jessica, who was still nestled happily in his arms, completely oblivious. But the words had been spoken. Jessica shot a glare at the divorce papers I printed and signed her name without a second thought. She turned and kissed Ryan on the cheek. Ryan, you've always been my number one. Don't worry, as a manager at this firm, I'll make sure all the biggest clients are handed over to you. Ryan's eyes lit up at her promise, and he eagerly kissed her back. Jessica, you're amazing. I just shook my head. What client resources did she have? I had arranged her job at the firm just to give her something to do, to keep her out of trouble. Her salary was even deducted from my commission checks. Every client she managed, every sale she closed, was a lead I had passed to her. Holding the signed divorce papers, a sense of finality washed over me. I'll see you at the courthouse tomorrow. 8 a.m. I turned to leave, but my former boss burst into the office, blocking my path. It's a disaster. It's crashing. Ryan, every stock you picked is in a free fall. A grim smile touched my lips. This wasn't the end. I knew, based on Elliott wave theory, that there would be one last minor rally before the total collapse, a final bull trap for fools to double down. And for a gambler like Ryan, that temptation would be impossible to resist. Ryan bolted from the room. Jessica collapsed into a chair, her face pale. She fumbled for the contract she'd signed that morning, her hands shaking as she remembered the clause about being liable for client losses. Seeing my mocking expression, she lunged for me as if I were her last hope, grabbing my arm desperately. Jake, please, you have to help us. Help me and Ryan. I calmly pulled my arm from her grasp. Staring in her panicked eyes, I said, absolutely not. Just then, Ryan stormed back in, his face wild with rage. Security? Get in here and restrain him. He pointed a trembling finger at me. You did something, didn't you? You must have sabotaged my portfolio. There's no other way it could be failing. I laughed a cold, sharp sound. I scanned the faces of my former colleagues who had gathered in the doorway. Not a single person moved. What's the matter, Ryan? You think I can personally move the stock market? Someone in the crowd snickered. The whispers grew louder. And this guy is supposed to be a director? What was he thinking, investing in those stocks with the market looking like this? Such an amateur. As Ryan's face cycled through shades of red and white, I walked toward him. So, do you need my help? He stumbled backward, tripping over the threshold and falling into the hallway. I stepped over him, went to my desk, and boxed up my personal belongings. Pausing at the door, I looked back at Jessica's ashen face and gave her a slight smile. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Don't be late. The next morning, it was nearly 9 a.m. when Jessica and Ryan finally showed up at the courthouse. Their arrogance had returned. Surprised, Jake? The stocks bounced back. Jessica dangled a new set of car keys in front of my face. Remember this? The new Audi. It was the A7, the model that had just been released this year. I had wanted to buy one, but Jessica had thrown a fit, so I dropped it. She placed the keys in Ryan's hand, her voice thick with emotion. It's yours, Ryan. From now on, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I felt a wave of nausea and looked away. Ryan took my silence for defeat. Jessica, you're just too good to me, he said, squeezing her hand. You know, back in college, if you had just gotten that loan for the phone, I would have paid you back immediately. I was just testing you to see if you really loved me, but I never thought. Jessica's gaze turned venomous as she looked at me. I shook my head. If Ryan had that kind of money, he wouldn't have been using a flip phone for the next 2 years. Let's just get this over with, I said. You two can continue your soap opera after we get the decree. 6. Holding the final divorce decree, I felt an incredible sense of relief. It was finally over. I would no longer have to watch my love and devotion be trampled on by Jessica, like our 3rd anniversary, when she said she was too busy to celebrate, busy setting up a private fireworks display for Ryan in the suburbs. Or Ryan's birthday, when she left me at home, collapsed with stomach pains, so she wouldn't be late for their candlelit dinner. From now on, all of that was in the past. Jessica was about to launch into another boast when a sleek, new Porsche Taycan pulled up to the curb in a silent, smooth motion. Chloe Hayes stepped out and shoved a large bouquet of roses into my arms. Congratulations on the divorce, Minter. If things had gone differently, I would have been the star pupil of the country's most respected financial theorist, and Chloe would have been my junior colleague in the Ph.D. program. But I gave it all up for Jessica. I never stopped my research, though. I continued publishing papers, and Chloe, who benefited greatly from my guidance, often joked that I was an unofficial member of her research lab, always calling me her mentor. I never corrected her. It was a way of keeping my academic dream alive. After graduating, Chloe took over her family's massive corporation, and now I was about to join her. Seeing us together, Jessica stormed over. Jake, who is she? I push her away. Does it matter to you? I held up the divorce decree. We're done. Ryan stepped in, putting a protective arm around Jessica while sneering at me. Mentor? Please. More like a sugar mama and her boy toy. He added with a nasty smirk, sorry, Jake. At your age, with that face. I don't think you can even be called a boy toy anymore. Chloe started to retort, but I held her back. Once we were in the car, she was still fuming. Jake, I can't believe you gave up everything for a woman like that. It's over now, I said, closing my eyes as the exhaustion hit me again. As I spoke, I felt a pair of eyes on me. I opened mine and looked at Chloe. Her eyes were large and round, filled with an innocent, unguarded curiosity. Minter, she asked suddenly, are you ready to start something new? The space in the car felt small and intimate. The scent of jasmine from her perfume hung in the air. I turned my head to look out the window. Chloe, I don't think so. I'm too tired. She was silent for a moment. Okay, Minter, we can talk about it later, then. I trusted my judgment. After starting at Chloe's firm, my steady hand and conservative strategies pushed our performance to new heights. Based on my analysis, the final crash for the stocks Ryan was holding was just a few days away. That evening, Chloe asked me to accompany her to a competitive bidding presentation the next day. Several big firms are going to be there, she said, rubbing her temples in the elevator. I'll be a nervous wreck if you're not with me. He smiled to hear anxiety. Suddenly, the elevator jolted to a stop. A terrible feeling washed over me. Then it began to ascend rapidly. Chloe and I locked eyes, and she grabbed my hand in panic. Jake! This was a 30-story building. If the elevator went to the top, and then the cable snapped. The thought was terrifying. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead, but I forced myself to stay calm, recalling emergency procedures I'd read about. I slammed my hand against the panel, pressing the button for every single floor, then hit the emergency alarm. No response. The elevator kept climbing. We had no idea what floor we were on or when we would start to fall. My heart pounded against my ribs. I heard my own voice, dry and hoarse. Chloe, if it starts to fall, use me to break your fall. You have to take care of yourself. I couldn't tell who would live and who would die in the next few moments. 7. Chloe burst into tears. Jake, she seemed to make a decision. Pinning me against the elevator wall, she kissed me hard. The scent of jasmine was overwhelming. Jake, I love you, she said, her voice urgent. If I don't say it now, I might never get the chance. I'd rather say it and die than regret it forever. Before, there was so much standing between us. But now there's nothing. Please, just give me an answer. You're willing to die for me. Can't you just answer me? Before I could finish, the elevator began to plummet. The emergency alarm shrieked. Maybe in a life or death moment, you stop thinking rationally. I promise, I heard myself say, if we get out of this alive, we'll be together. I closed my eyes, sealing the vow. Chloe wrapped her arms around me, holding on tight. In the next instant, the elevator screeched to a halt. The doors slid open. I grabbed Chloe's hand and pulled her out into the hallway. We were on the 20th floor. Behind us, the elevator cable snapped with a deafening groan, and the car plunged downward, crashing into the basement with a sickening boom. We survived. We had cheated death. Chloe clung to me, sobbing with relief. Jake, we're alive. I could feel my own heart hammering against my ribs. We're alive. Suddenly, Chloe laughed through her tears. You promised me, Jake. You finally promised me. Her eyes were shining, her smile so bright it felt like it lit up a part of my soul. The next day at the presentation, I was surprised to see Jessica and Ryan. They looked triumphant. The deceptive pre-crash rally was intoxicating, and Ryan had even started a YouTube channel called The Trading Genius, gaining a sizable following of amateur investors. I wondered how long his good fortune would last. Chloe had forgotten her briefcase and went back to the car to get it, leaving me waiting in the lobby. Spotting me alone, Jessica was the first to approach, a sneer on her face. Well, look what we have here. My ex-husband, who latched onto a rich girl. What happened? Did she dump you already? Are you here to beg me to take you back? Ryan stepped in, pretending to defend me. Now, Jessica, don't be so hard on him. So what if Jake is old, washed up, and unemployable? He has one great quality. He's shameless. He chuckled. Judging by that off-the-rack suit, you must be here trying to land a contract. All by yourself? Don't tell me you couldn't even get a job at another firm? No way, I thought Jake was supposed to be some kind of big shot. Jessica scoffed. A big shot? Please. He's an idiot, stuck in his ways. He worked at the same firm for 5 years and couldn't even make director. I watched their pathetic little performance, about to respond when a clear, sharp voice cut through the air. What nonsense are you two spewing? Chloe appeared, stepping between them and me. She looked Jessica up and down. Ma'am, have you and your kept man finished talking? Seeing us together, Ryan's face twisted with resentment, while Jessica's flushed with rage. Who do you think you are? You can have my leftovers. See if I care. You're nothing. You probably snuck into an event like this. What is going on here? My former boss came rushing over. When he saw Jessica confronting Chloe, his face went white with terror. He hurried to apologize. Ms. Hayes, I am so sorry. This employee of mine. She speaks without thinking. Please, don't hold it against her. Chloe sniffed. Is that so? She looked up at me. Mentor, should we forgive them? I gently patted her head. We're human, Chloe. Let's not argue with dogs. We walked into the conference hall, leaving Jessica and Ryan standing there, their faces masks of humiliation. The presentation had barely begun when a commotion erupted outside the hall. It was Ken Wallace, the big client, right on schedule. By now, the stocks Ryan had been trading should have hit rock bottom. He stormed into the room and slapped Ryan across the face. You son of a bitch. I trusted you with my portfolio. You told me the market was booming, so I kept investing more and more. Now it's all gone. The crowd outside the hall was growing angry, too. It turned out many people had followed Ryan's advice from his YouTube channel and had been wiped out. They were all here for his head. Jessica tried to intervene, but was shoved to the ground by Wallace. You guaranteed it. You guaranteed nothing. It's all gone. My entire life savings gone. Wallace collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. My former boss, his face pale, frantically checked the market on his phone. Total collapse. Not only was Wallace ruined, but every investment made under Ryan's direction in the past few weeks had been obliterated. He slumped to the ground. It's over. It's all over. Curious onlookers began asking about Ryan's investment strategy. Thanks to his streaming, his methods were no secret. As the details came out, a wave of disbelief washed over the room. What kind of moron makes a trade like that? Did this guy even go to business school? A rookie wouldn't make these mistakes. Unbelievably stupid. I watched coldly, then walked over and helped Wallace to his feet. He looked at me like I was his last hope, clinging to my leg and wailing. Jake, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I never should have listened to them, just to save a few bucks. They've ruined me. I regret it so much. My money. I sighed. Actually, you might not be completely ruined. He looked up, his eyes wide. I pulled up an account on my phone. This is the private portfolio you asked me to manage for you 3 years ago, off the books. You said you trusted me more than the firm. Wallace frantically scrolled through the account details, his eyes widening in disbelief. There's so much here. I am saved. I can cover my losses. He scrambled to his feet, bowing repeatedly. Thank you, Jake, thank you. The executive from the company we were pitching to walked over and glanced at the performance data on my phone. Incredible, he marveled. Every move is perfectly timed, maximizing gains while minimizing risk. This is the work of a true genius. I met Ryan's venomous, jealous glare and smiled, mouthing 2 words, "You're finished." Outside the venue, the angry mob of investors was waiting for Ryan to give them an explanation. Online, the fallout was even worse. Suddenly, Ryan snapped. "It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. It was her." He pointed a shaking finger at Jessica, desperately trying to shift the blame. "She told me to make those trades. I just did what she said. I don't know anything. She orchestrated the whole thing." The 2 people who had been so lovey-dovey at the courthouse just a day earlier were now at each other's throats. "Ryan, what are you talking about? How dare you lie like that and blame me?" They started screaming and fighting, physically attacking each other until security guards dragged them both out and threw them onto the street. After that day, I rarely heard anything about them. They had vanished from my life, until I saw a news report one day. The number of investors Ryan had ruined was staggering. One man, who had lost his entire life savings and had nothing left, tracked Ryan down, intent on making him pay with his life. In a moment of cowardice, Ryan shoved Jessica in front of him, using her as a human shield. She died instantly. Ryan didn't get away. The man caught up to him and, in a final act of desperation and revenge, stabbed him 18 times. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I was free. In the distance, Chloe's happy voice called out to me. "Jake, the fireworks are about to start. Hurry up." My life, my real life, was just beginning. And from now on, the future was nothing but bright.